Off. Say hello, everybody. Starting. We're live. We're live.
All right, what's going on, guys?
Greetings.
I forgot that I gotta listen to my mic constantly.
Yeah, you gotta turn it off.
All right.
Greetings, lefty. Sounds good. Go ahead.
Yeah. Welcome to the Left and Self podcast, episode 32. And if you're watching this stream right now, there's a new face here, someone we've never seen before. It's one of our good friends here, Ian, also known as EpochPhilosophy on YouTube. Tell everyone what you're all about.
All right, so like you guys, I am a student at university. Political science major. I come from like a political science perspective, but my YouTube is pretty much just completely focused on theory and philosophy for the most part. I mean, I'll talk about leftist politics within the context of theory, but ultimately, I want to make theory understandable and easy for most people. And I also think theory and philosophy does a way better job at explaining potential outcomes for politics and just a whole host of other things. Far better than like political science or like you.
Yeah, Caleb. Yeah, I go by Caleb. It's on Discord. It's my gamer name. Yeah.
Caleb, all right. And Caleb, like you said, economics. I absolutely loathe in a lot of ways the social sciences. As far as political science and economics, sociology is pretty sweet. We were talking about that earlier, though.
Yeah, so finally we'll have a fellow economics hater on the podcast.
Yeah. On, dude.
Let's go.
Yeah, and we were just talking before the podcast, like I was simping over some of your most recent content. One of my favorite philosophers and writers of all time, Salaj Zizek, your most recent video I thought was fantastic. So if anyone watching the stream should go check that out. Because if you're like me and you're kind of stupid and slow, works like that are really tough to get into. And I thought you did a great job of simplifying it without losing the nuance of the
Thank
work.
you.
So yeah, I thought that was really well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. That's like the whole goal is I've noticed with like, have you guys seen the YouTube channel School of Life?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, they fucking suck so bad. I mean, like their production quality is great, right? And I don't want to say they suck because there is a use for that. It's really simple, but it is so watered down. But it's so approachable, which is great. It can get you in the loop of some concepts and stuff like that. Well, hardly concepts because they don't really even talk about them. But that's the thing is it's so watered down, but there's not a lot of detail. I try to definitely bridge that gap. And then there's some other YouTube channels, dude, who they go fucking balls to the wall. Like they'll straight pure concepts, like everything, like like this one dude, I think his name's Chad something Peak Oil. He talks about Hegel and oh my God, dude, like he's like Hegelian dialectics is not really this, and he goes into the whole like phenomenology of spirit and shit. I'm like, all right, dude, all right, you're losing me. And I definitely try to like blend those two things together and make it as easy as possible and entertaining. Another thing too is production quality is like one thing
dude. I was like watching your latest video. I was like, damn, bro, this guy, he has like the editing's insane.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. I genuinely, that like warms the heart. I appreciate that because it takes a lot of work, but it's like it is a labor of love though, like it's I love doing it. So
hey, but like if you produce the quality content, the fans just come.
For sure, yeah.
I think that's been my approach. I'm like, I'm just gonna do this. But my thing was like, if I'm going to start making videos, I'm gonna do it right. Like I'm gonna do it right in every way I possibly can, right?
Absolutely.
But this last video, like you said, with Zizek, my channel has like almost doubled in subs. It's been fucking wonderful.
I saw that. Crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, well, we appreciate you coming on, man. We really like like your stuff. So we hope it can be a good episode.
Yeah, you're our first guest.
Let's launch straight in.
First, but obviously, before we get into these topics, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, something that has a rating system, of course, rate the podcast, first of all. Second of all, sub to our YouTube. Our Twitter right now is suspended, but, what can you do about that? Hopefully, we can get Caleb just disconnected, but hopefully we can get that Twitter back up. But yeah,
hey, one second. I see Grunt in the
the
comments.
music's already off. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, good. Just making sure. All right, cool.
I saw that too. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, but I don't know.
All right,
You're
we're
free
good.
to like curse or anything like that. So I
Okay,
don't
cool.
care.
All right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We don't care
This is a
about anything about that.
dirtbag left podcast. You
Yeah,
know what I
dude,
mean? We're all about those dirty
Yeah.
deeds.
Man, even before I developed a good sense of politics, I cussed way more than I ever should. I
Yeah.
guess it's just like I also like, you know, talking theory and philosophy. I've even from a young age, it's like, why the fuck does anyone like really care? Like,
Yeah.
how, you know, not to get into the big old macho right wing archetype, but like how like almost soft in a way
Yeah.
is this like this idea that we live in the United States of like fucking horrible shit going on in like every way, like extreme poverty in a lot of ways, but like you're really fucking pissed off that someone says fuck. It's like,
Yeah,
come on.
like saying cunt
like-
is like punishable by death.
100%.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
How dare you? First of all, even use that
Yeah.
word.
Truly.
Yeah, but the first thing I want to talk about is that there was 2 arrested and 1 saw in a fatal shooting of an undercover Cleveland police officer. This is like some recent news. Have you guys heard about this?
No.
So we're launching straight in. No, I've not
Yeah,
heard about
yeah.
this. So what happened? So two people were arrested. This happened where?
In Cleveland.
In
Police
Cleveland.
informant, yes. So
Okay, wait, I'm confused. Was this connected to something that happened other than that, or what?
So, I mean, I'm just wondering if you guys ever heard of this.
No, I have not heard of this.
I don't know, because
No.
I've heard of
No.
like, you know, there was like talk of, I don't know if it was in Oregon, but like people like, you know, like actually trying to like hunt cops down. Like if you see a fucking cop, like blast them. I'm just wondering
Yeah.
what you guys think about that. Like, yeah.
I know that during the original, like when the Black Lives Matter movement first started to really gain a lot of attention nationally, I know that there was some fear mongering on the right along those lines. People saying like, "Oh, these Black Lives Matter activists they're hunting down cops," you know,
Yeah.
because they had that old thing about like pigs in a blanket or whatever, fry them like bacon. And I know Trump like really attached himself to that. For the Black Lives Matter movement, but I haven't heard anything else about. I don't think that that's actually a real thing. I think, of course, people are upset, but I don't think people are actually doing that, and not in an organized way, anyway.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely like. I think with stuff like that, it's definitely far more like media sized or whatever. Like it for sure. Matter of fact, the one thing that actually disturbed me was that there was actually. Did you guys hear about the LA thing with the guy who got killed by the police officer?
Which one?
No.
Okay,
Yeah,
so this I don't want to. I totally do not want to hijack this.
No,
story
you're
or
fine.
what
I
you
mean,
No,
like,
no, you're
I know-
free to hijack
like,
everything. That's
we
why
pick
you're
up-
here.
We, like
Okay.
we talk about articles and like. Well, I
We
just wonder if
we go on
Caleb has heard about it.
tangents.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this
Constantly.
might be a little bit more of interest. Democracy Now! Did a story on it, but in LA, there was a police officer who was a part of a larger gang inside of a police department. I shit you not, this is for real. And they're called the Executioners. And in order to be a part of the Executioners, you got to kill someone. And this
What
police
the
officer,
fuck?
I swear to God,
What?
Like
I
an underground fucking
Yes.
cop gang.
Yes.
That's
I
fucking crazy.
swear. I swear, you could pull up the article. Democracy
What
Now! Did
the
a thing.
fuck?
Dude, I know. I'm pretty sure I tweeted about it. I pretty much said, I was like, no big deal, guys. Just a couple bad apples and a bad apples gang and a fucking police
Yeah.
department. Like, no, nothing to see.
What
Jesus
the
fucking
hell? Yeah, I'm
Christ.
looking at this article right now. Like, apparently, allegedly, there was a police shooting, and they're suspecting that it was part of a gang initiation ritual where, like, basically, yeah, like you said, you have to kill someone to be initiated into this gang. What an insane...
It's insane.
That's crazy. I mean, but it's not... Is it beyond the pale? No, I don't think so. It's like...
How many
very
other
kind of
like
expected.
secret fucking cop clubs are there?
Yeah.
You know, it's like gotta kill. You know, it's like first you gotta kill a black person, then you're allowed.
Yeah.
in. It's like what if like you know you like one of these cops like kills someone and never heard about the code. Like by the way, like
Yeah.
here's your here's your invite. Like I imagine how confused that person would be.
Yeah,
Yeah, bad
especially
apples.
like in conjunction with a lot of like prior history of organized crime in the United States with the police. Like
Yeah.
it totally doesn't surprise me. Although this is far more like demonic and terrible because like organized crime, like in my opinion, I don't actually have like a huge moral like I think a lot of people feel this. There's no huge like moral like. All right, you sell drugs, you make money. Like if you want to use the police department, at least you're not going out and shooting black people like you know
Right.
like left and right. But yeah, that's super fucking disturbing for sure.
Yeah, because the question with organized crime is like, a lot of times crime is moralized in a way that we don't necessarily agree with. So like when someone's selling drugs, I don't necessarily have a moral problem with that, even though it's like, organized crime. But yeah, like this level of police brutality, organized murder literally is kind of shocking.
If initiation is just killing someone, like what the fuck goes on in that group? It's like
that's just the first step,
right?
I know and obviously too, like when you hear about gangs outside of police departments who do that, it's equally as disturbing, right? But it's like, dude, like it's in a fucking police department, man. And it totally seems like a fake story. Like I remember when I saw it, I was confused. I thought it was like some police got mixed up with a gang who did that with someone else, and like a police officer died or something, or did something wrong. It's like, no, like it was the fucking a police officer, part of the executioners, fucking executed some random.
Your mind doesn't want to immediately go to the most extreme thing, but then it's true. Yeah. And I know that to sort of like continue on this police avenue that we're on, the guy most recently, a right-wing like Trump supporter was killed, and it made the news. And we talked about it on the last episode. The guy was allegedly, driving around in his truck and spraying people with pepper spray and stuff, and he was shot and killed. And I know that either yesterday or today, the guy who was involved in that shooting was actually killed by the police as well. So, and I've seen a lot of really concerning takes because, like, on one hand, like anyone dying is bad, right? Of course, death is just in general something we like to avoid. But but here's the thing. I think that to compare this person's death to the death of, like, for example, the two people that 17-year-old kid killed just a few days prior, I think to compare their deaths is very not only foolish, but extremely vile and offensive to me.
It's actually morally fucked up as hell. Not like, and it's funny too, because they'll use this as like a jumping off point of, like, oh, left-wing radicals, when like really, like, and I'm sure you guys are more than aware of this, the largest terror threat in the West, not just the United States, but in Europe, is far right-wing terrorism.
Absolutely.
And Antifa, who really isn't necessarily a central organization, even people who are associated under the label of Antifa, there's been no recorded deaths at all. They've never killed anybody. And it's not to say that we should necessarily like we should condone everything. I think Antifa, for the most part, is a pretty fucking good force for good. But it's not necessarily to say that, like anything under the Antifa guys is good by definition. It's not. But it's just the idea that left-wing terrorism or violence is a thing is fucking bullshit. And honestly, it's going to get more people killed.
Yeah, absolutely. This guy, I'm pretty sure this guy made a video like admitting to this crime. And basically, he was like giving more context to the situation, what happened. He was saying that he was like with his friend, and like if he didn't act, him and his friend like probably would have died, like, and gotten stabbed to death. So like, he was like, he was defending himself. And I think it's weird that, like, how the fuck did this guy die? Like, he died. You know how he died? He was running away from the cops.
Yes, I heard. Like, all we know so far is what the police's account of the situation was, because there's not any information other than that out right now. But I watched the video that you watched, David, and I noticed that as well. The way that the police described it, they were like, he exited the vehicle. There was gunfire. Like, okay, there was gunfire. I don't know what that means.
Also, like, also he had weapons. Like,
and it's like, and then he's like, and then the suspect began to flee, and then he was shot and killed. And I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's like, okay, he's running away, so it's like, all right, put him down. He's dangerous. Like, I wonder if he was like scared, like, or like what was going through his mind, like,
like he
probably thought like these cops were here to assassinate this dude.
I don't know if I was gonna bring something up, but I don't know if I want to segue like too much further.
Oh no, you're fine, bro. Like,
okay, all right, perfect. It's funny when we talk about police violence and police killings and potential the mystified left-wing violence that apparently is really out there. I mean, I'm sure to some degree there might be some of it, but it's like, statistically speaking, it does not fucking exist. I think this is like one of the problems too that like the left is dealing with the right, and this is actually something I was like really interested to discuss with you guys and see exactly what you thought. I assume you might share, especially you, Caleb, if you're familiar with a little bit more theory, because there's a little bit of theory jargon involved with it. But a new approach that the left has to take, because I think the the typical approach when we're dealing with, we're arguing with someone is like, oh, well, police, they're just, police good, left-wing people bad, or whatever. There is no argument from a place of like the quote unquote marketplace of ideas. And it's funny that a lot of people on the left reject the marketplace of ideas, which I think most people do and should, because there's no historical evidence for it. But when we approach arguments, the left does approach it from a very Enlightenment liberal perspective. Like we really do. Like and in a lot of ways, I would like to say that's like a moral good of the left. Like it shows like an essence of like honesty in a way. But the right totally does not do that.
Yes.
But I think in a lot of ways, the right has the upper hand because they do not do that, and they understand their audience and politics better.
Absolutely, you're making an amazing point right now. Yeah, because it's people like to think that because morally speaking, I think it actually is a good thing, like the way that we engage in these conversations. But like from a practical standpoint, we have to be aware of the consequences of forcing ourselves to interact with one another within this framework when other people are willing not to. And exactly. Go ahead.
And sorry, I apologize.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. And even like more importantly, I think like this is probably a little bit more theory jargon. We're talking about the marketplace of ideas. The market, I just want to like, if possible, I'll clarify. Marketplace of ideas is ultimately like two people arguing, one argument, not to get into Hegelian dialectics, but one argument, an anti, like the other argument, and then eventually we can go up a pipeline and figure out the truth between that. And ultimately the prevailing truth, or the truth, the correct position will prevail. Obviously, that's an Enlightenment liberal from the 1700s idea, and there's no historical evidence for that because like Hitler and shit. But we approach arguments from the left with data. Like, if we're talking, I think one of the biggest examples is climate change, right? This showcases the biggest difference between the left and the right is the discussion on climate change. And the left almost always uses statistics, data. They use the traditional structure of Enlightenment liberalism in order to convey an argument. But obviously the right doesn't do that. So it definitely begs the question is like, what do you do going further? Because it's integrated into my psyche to just like to use traditional analytic philosophy, I want to say, and not to use any logical fallacies and so on and so forth. But it brings up the potential future. I think that like the left definitely needs to become more postmodern because the right is actually postmodern, and we need to beat them at their own game.
Yeah. No, I think you're making a great point. I think you really are. And I think like our liberal tendencies are really preventing us from overcoming like in the so-called marketplace of ideas. Again, like you said, I don't necessarily think there's evidence that this exists, and I think like a more materialist view of the world is seemingly more correct. But that is to be said, like while people respect this idea, I think that it's important for us to participate and try to win, so to speak. I don't know how else to say it.
It begs the question, it's like, how do we do that? And that still is actually a question in a lot of ways. But I think to convey to like an audience, to contextualize this a little bit, like I'd argue, and I'm sure you guys would too, that the real postmodernists are right-wingers. The people who have surpassed liberalism, they've taken obviously an extremely fascist approach. I think people who get upset when others call like Trump and Trumpism, or even like a lot of general right-wing politics today, like with fucking Bolsonaro, Modi, like it really is traditional fascist like politics. Like maybe not traditional, but it's like neo-fascism.
Right, neo-fascist, I would say.
Yeah, and so that obviously is a deviation from kind of Enlightenment norms. And so and like Matt McManus, I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's a professor. So he's a big friend of the Pills Pod. I'm a huge fan of Plastic Pills. Guys,
yeah, I saw that in your most recent video.
Yeah, but he's on the Pills Pod. He wrote a couple things about like kind of not shitting on him, but sort of dissecting Jordan Peterson and a lot of the bullshit that he spews, and then a lot of the and kind of articulating how like the right wing is actually the postmodernist. It's not the left wingers. And I think my approach for the future with the left actually isn't the traditional Marxist approach. And there's a lot of people who, like, I see that you have a hammer and sickle flag.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's mostly a meme though, so don't worry.
Sure. Okay. All right. Perfect. So I have a lot of experience with a lot of traditional Marxist-Leninists, and by the way, I actually, for reference, I'd probably consider myself in form a Marxist-Leninist. I can explain and get that into detail, just not necessarily in content per se, but from a lot of actual Marxist-Leninists, they fucking hate this. They hate this idea that the future probably isn't. It isn't the traditional forms of Marxism. We have to evolve. I think that the left has to take a more postmodern approach, and we need to take a more ideological warfare approach per se. I think that requires a lot of adaptation. I think we need new symbolism. I think we need new modes of communication in the sense of how we approach arguments. I think we need to figure out, get and dissect at the psychology of exactly what that postmodern right-wingism is, and we need to sort of prey on that, right? So if there is, let's say, if there is some like racism or like some deep-seated bigotry and stuff, we need to sort of find a way to get in between that. And I actually think the way to do that is forms of Marxism with materialism, but I think we need some newer approaches rather than just. I think like state and revolution, Leninism, and Maoism and shit. But yeah.
No, I totally agree. I think that historically those works and just those like historical events, really, like those struggles and those failures, I think are things that we should learn from, not necessarily emulate.
Sure.
Which is kind of why I have this flag, because I think that it opens up this conversation that we're having right now. Like this exact question of what does this represent? Because to me, it doesn't represent like the USSR, right? Because I think that their failure is not only something to be avoided, but something that we can build on and learn from. And I think that, I don't know. I don't know how
like
to
we
say
talked,
it, but
like we talked about on the podcast before, like the words like socialism and like communist, like these are words like that will scare people, like the normal person. Like yes, we're like leftists and we understand what these words mean, but like the average person are like they think these words are like similar to like calling someone like a Nazi. Like they think they're the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. And it's so yeah, when you're dealing with that baggage, obviously like the Cold War baggage and all of that historical context behind it, it really brings, at least it brings the idea up to me that like I want to almost disassociate with the idea or the semantics of socialism, and communism. I say that I'm a communist because I think in the long term I really am a communist. But if I was to put out a political argument, like if this was going to be a political strategy, I would leave all the terms behind. I'd leave I'd leave all the symbolism. I'd leave the hammer and sickle behind. I'd leave all of it behind. And I think one good way to look at symbolism, I think there is one good example of symbolism with post maybe neo-Marxism or whatever. And it's DSA. I think DSA, and granted, I'm farther left of DSA in a lot of ways, but DSA has done a phenomenal job. And I think, and I'm going to shit on them a little bit, I think PSL, do you guys know who PSL is?
PSL?
Yeah.
I think PSL is, I think PSL, like obviously like the ideas and stuff like that.
That's Gloria, right?
Sorry, what's that?
Gloria Riva.
Who's PSL?
PSL,
Party for Socialism and Liberation.
They're
that's the Gloria Riva. She's the head of, or like their ticket. I think they changed who it was though.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think this. I think this the typical PSL approach is just utter fucking bullshit, and it's so harmful to a lot of like in a lot of ways. I'm not going to say completely because I don't want to say that PSL is like a terrible organization, but I just think that like this approach that they're taking with the traditional symbolism, the language is so fucking harmful in the long term.
I agree.
That I can't tell you, like a lot of people, and I've had conversations with people who are a part of PSL. They're like, but the problem is they're like, you're a fucking lib in disguise. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like,
it's because they don't understand. It's because they're so inundated with all this thinking that they can't even connect with normal people anymore who aren't exposed to this. 100%. Yes, I agree with you so much. It actually like almost hurts a little bit. It's insane.
I actually get that a lot. I've had a lot of fucking struggles because again, like I'm a communist, so So I like in every way and form, like I really am a communist in most ways, but fuck me, man. I've had so many problems with a lot of like actual communists. I almost think that their politics is fucking aesthetic. I really do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's actually
people
it's
love
so
the vibes.
infuriating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
fucking
it's like
weird.
they like the fucking the roguish like communistic vibes and fucking
Yeah.
like they're like, oh, I'm
The
this
counterculture thing. Yeah.
counterculture fucking thing, and I fucking hate it, man. It really sucks because like when you look at it, like look at how well DSA has radicalized fucking like millions of people in the United
people.
States.
Yeah.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Bernie Sanders too, and this is the other thing with people shitting on Bernie Sanders. Like obviously, like I get that like we don't like Bernie Sanders endorsed Biden and shit,
Yeah.
but it's like fuck me. How many people has he radicalized?
For
Yeah.
real. No,
he
yeah.
kind of radicalized me in a way. Like in a way, I had a lot of socialistic tendencies before Sanders, but like really, like he brought so many people into that avenue of thought, and it's I think that we need to fucking run with this. And again, I hate Bosch says some stupid fucking shit. I think
God, yeah.
he says some
Dude,
stupid fucking shit.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you just bring that up because we had a whole episode. We spent like 25 minutes talking about some of the dumb shit he says on Twitter and on his videos.
Yeah,
he says a lot of it sucks. It sucks really bad because he makes one really good point. Vosh had what's his name on Twitter, and I'm sure the dude's cool. We live in the same city. He lives in Kansas City. Fly Tie MMA or Socialist MMA. I think did you guys see that debate between him? He's just a big Twitter personality.
Maybe.
And it was really fucking bad. Vosh utterly destroyed him, and Vosh made a lot of really good points though with that. That the Socialist MMA was like the character who was on his debate said like pretty much no, like we can't work with the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders bad, AOC's bad, and and I don't want to straw man anything, but like that's kind of the ethos of like what he is ultimately conveying. And Vosh made really good arguments that like, okay, dude, like you have to understand like a lot of normal people like in this Twitter sphere, that's not real life. Like at least in left Twitter sphere, like it really isn't. Most people, the minute you bring up a hammer and sickle, who have socialistic tendencies, the potential to be socialist and work within, work within a potential quote unquote revolution or new movement, they're scared away from that, and we need to fucking pay attention to that.
Yeah. And it's just not Americans too. Like even people who like I have a friend from Venezuela, right? And like I was talking about like socialism. He's like socialism, like socialism like killed my fucking country and like stuff like that. It's like. I was like, like I want to like say it's like, bro, it's like that wasn't socialism. That was a dictator just being a fascist.
Yeah,
right.
You have to be a professor of fucking like history to go down the line of things.
Yeah. Can I say something about Venezuela?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, King.
Anyone who is actually a little bit uneducated, I've gotten because I've had to explain this so many times. I've gotten a really good repeat like of how to explain what happened in Venezuela.
Go off.
This is a very simplistic view. What happened in Venezuela was capitalism destroyed Venezuela, not socialism. The oil markets, the larger international market capitalist structure killed Venezuela because the oil markets tanked, and that was their one source of like actual like GDP, and it was actually capitalism that fucking
sounds like socialism to me.
And, like, there's and the fucking right, bro. There's articles like that's like no, but this like fucking oil prices didn't actually cool down. So it was this. It's like they just lie, bro. They just lie.
We're getting into the postmodern right. They're fucking lying. They're doing it perfectly. They're winning. Like it's like So
great illustration of your point there.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so funny.
But I'm what I want to talk about next though is Oregon governor. He calls out the white supremacists and vigilantes while demanding to end like the Portland violence. Portland. What they've been protesting for like 2 months, 3.
Yeah, Portland is fucking
it's been
awesome.
a while. Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
My cousin moved to Portland pretty recently. And
I want to move there too.
Yeah,
I
fucking
Antifa headquarters. I hear Antifa headquarters are recruiting. So
Soros. I'm waiting for my Soros paycheck before I move in though.
Yeah. If you guys think about moving to Oregon, I have not visited there yet. I've thought about the same thing before. I was like, if you guys move there, let's do that and let's all get together because I will. I've never been to Oregon. I would like to go. But,
hell yeah.
She says that it's like Oregon is the shit, or like Portland rather. And like I live in Kansas City. I believe Portland's only a little bit bigger than Kansas City, but goddamn, dude, their fucking activist base is unreal.
Yeah.
Like it's beautiful in every single way.
It makes me feel so inadequate here.
It does.
Like, honestly,
it's like if we could mimic the forms of protest and we could mimic the activism in those cities across every city in the country, oh my fuck, we could do whatever we wanted.
Topple capitalism tomorrow.
I don't mean that in a sinister way. I mean that in the sense that like if we wanted Medicare for all, we wanted housing for all, we could fucking do it, and it's gonna take us doing it. But
we brought this up in the wake of the crisis, the housing crisis, the new housing crisis that's happening right now. People all getting evicted. 40 to 50% of renters in this country are facing possible eviction. Like that's 40 to 50 million people right just there. That number alone. That's enough to, like you said, do whatever we want. And all it takes is the organization.
Exactly.
And that's really what we're lacking.
And this is also another like interesting thing I've thought. Like your guys's, I'm curious about what your guys's electorate politics right now in 2020 looks like. But I'll if you guys don't mind, I'll share mine.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
go ahead.
Compare and contrast. I actually think I get beaten over the head. I'm not voting for Joe Biden. I live in Kansas. I'm going to vote for the Green Party. I wish I could vote. I wish there was. This is we can get to that later too. But I'm not voting for Joe Biden. But I think it is imperative that Joe Biden gets elected. I do. Like I think in almost every stretch of the imagination, I think another 4 more years of Trump is. It's actually, I think, more dangerous than what I actually think a lot of people think. And I actually think that Joe Biden should be elected. I mean, I'm not going to fucking canvass for him. I'm not going to fucking volunteer for him. I'm not even going to fucking vote for him in Kansas because it's going to go to the Republicans anyways. But I do think that in the sphere of things, I do right now in 2020 think it is imperative that Joe Biden, we do vote for the lesser of two evils as a country. I hate saying that, but more than anything, I think this is a Chomsky approach a little bit, that it isn't just the lesser of two evils that's killed the country. That's not really it. That's very simplistic. I think lesser of two evils sucks really bad, and it sucks that we have a two-party system, but it's the lesser of two evils without direct action. It's like electing an Obama without fucking doing anything or getting in the streets. It's like, dude, it's political suicide. It's like, but it's not necessarily the act of voting for Obama or partaking in the two-party system per se. But that's sort of the approach that I'm at right now.
Yeah, I'm totally sympathetic to that view, and I think I even agree with it. I think my main concern is that if we have the neoliberal president in Joe Biden, and he minimizes the damage that Trump has done, but then also in addition we don't maintain this level of organization that we're starting to see drum up in America here,
100%.
Then it could be bad because we could be facing another 4 to 8 years of Obama, and like.
And then
I'm not excited about that.
Right. Well, not only that sucks bad enough. And then the result potentially, I mean, we could see a Trump that's far worse. That's 100%.
Right. Tom Cotton.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. And think about how effective Tom Cotton would be in office compared to Trump too. Like
exactly.
Like, he could unify the Republicans in such graceful language, and then absolutely just like extrajudicial, like jailings, killings. Like no, I don't think people understand. Yeah.
I've been saying it for months. Tom Cotton, 2024, baby. It's over.
Yeah, and that's a very real reality that we have to contend with. Again, I would like to say that again, any minimizing of what you just said and the potential for another neoliberal president is fucking bullshit. That should always be talked about. But at the end of the day, too, that's also just a failure of direct action in a way while Biden is in office, because while Biden may not necessarily. While Biden, I think Biden thinks this. I think that Biden actually wants a public option. I think a public option's good better
than what we have.
If you fucking get in the streets in Washington D.C. and you fuck shit up, I think you could maybe push him to an actual universal system, not a single payer, but a universal system.
I don't know if I'm as sympathetic to that. I really don't like this thought that Biden can be pushed to the left. I don't think that there's evidence of that. And I think honestly the historical evidence kind of points in the opposite direction, honestly.
You do?
Just his tenure as a senator, I mean, just the way he voted, the way that he spoke about different policies and ideas. I just feel like the thought that he will go to the left is just totally the opposite of what I'd expect.
Sure. And so I again, like I understand that. I think, but I look at like the presidency not as like a personalized entity, right? Per se. So like Obama's rhetorical stance, like, and this applies to Biden too, even his more conservative stance, right? I think the presidency molds you in a way, right? So for example, if we want to use historical analysis, and that's kind of the approach that I take, that like you can actually push people to the left. Like I think you actually can. Like I understand the caution that you're taking. You're like, man, like, dude, this dude's a fucking segregationist and stuff, and
Yeah.
the majority of his career. Like I understand that. I think though there is a lot of historical evidence though of presidents who are very unsympathetic to a lot of movements, who completely like went on the side of them during a huge civil rights movement. What's the biggest president is oh fuck, why am I forgetting his name? Not Gerald Ford, the one before after JFK died.
Oh god. History test. I don't
Martin
remember.
Luther King and him didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things until the very end of the civil rights movement, where he was like, all right, fuck, I'm gonna do what you're gonna do. Lyndon Johnson, 100%. Yeah. And I think like examples like that is something that, because there is that historical precedent, and Lyndon Johnson sucked in a lot of ways beforehand.
Right.
Since there is that historical precedent, I think that it might be wise to sort of, it might be wrong. I think it might not actually happen. It might not work. But I think we kind of need to cling on to that, because it's kind of all that we have in a lot of ways.
I mean, yeah.
I'm open to the idea that that's the best choice to mitigate damage. I'm definitely open
we
to
got
that
Marxist
idea.
Camilla in there, so like maybe Joe Biden passes away. Camilla can
Kamala Harris gonna fucking destroy the bourgeoisie.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The Kamala Harris pick even more cemented me into like this thought that, God, man, they really don't want to win. Like this is not a serious thing for them.
Yeah, that's the candidate they're backing in 2024.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Sure. It is. I remember thinking when they saw that, I think that's actually a more significant pick than what people think, because it's just cementing the lack of change. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create their new legacy candidate who is going to be the next, like Obama, or they're totally, she's going to be like, I mean, they're going to run her. She's going to be the Joe Biden or the Hillary Clinton in about 10 years.
But that then brings like someone who's probably going to be even worse than Trump in 2024.
Right,
dude.
Exactly.
Yes. Absolutely,
and they're probably gonna win.
And so that's the other thing. I do think that there is another option to look at here. So your guys' approach, and this was my approach for the longest time, albeit I'm still kind of there. But I do think that there is another approach that might be wise to look at, right? So we're looking at that, 8 years of neoliberalism under the Democratic Party. It further alienates right wingers, and it very well can. But I think that's the typical perspective we take a lot with right wingers, and it makes centrists complacent. But this is what we do. I think this is the approach. If Biden is going to, if he is the Democratic candidate, if he is president, this is what we do. I think we continue to get out in the streets, organize as much as we fucking possibly can, and what we show that any potential failings, we reach out to centrists and say, guys, like, look, like, again, we can talk about the efficacy of this. I don't know how well it will work, but we haven't actually really tried that. We haven't, because if you look at the Obama era, dude, socialism was like looked at as like a fucking, like the Overton window has shifted so far left that we weren't having outreach conversations with centrists during the Obama era being like, hey, like, this is the failings of neoliberal capitalism. That never existed. Or I mean, it did with like the Occupy Wall Street movement, but not to the extent that like post Bernie Sanders has. So I think that the approach that really might be wise is that we Biden's president, that is if he fucking wins, he's losing ground.
Oh my God, yeah.
But
that's scary too. Yeah,
it is scary. But what we do is we're like, look, this is the issue. The system doesn't work, and there is some historical evidence. A lot of historians agree with this, that presidents don't. Presidents and a lot of necessarily individuals radicalize people. It's systems, and then it's periods of time and history that do the radicalizations, right? So Bernie Sanders kind of brought that to fruition, but it wasn't Bernie Sanders in a sense, right? So there's a lot of people who have moved farther left, and they didn't like Bernie Sanders. They didn't like him. They're like, he's divisive and shit, but they did shift farther left. And so I think what we do is we're like, look, the failings is on the very neoliberal philosophy and the Democratic Party. We need to change this now. We need to change this now, but we need you, the centrist, the moderate. We need your fucking help. We can't rely on right-wingers. It doesn't fucking work. They're lost. They're a lost cause.
Yeah.
Fuck them. Like, fuck them under any definition. And yeah. And so I think that is an approach that I think we need to take more seriously. I know among leftist circles, it's kind of hard to grab onto that. And I fucking sympathize, because it took me a while to sort of like acknowledge that, like, that's a potential solution that we haven't tried.
Yeah, I think you're actually making a great point, and the Occupy Wall Street movement's a great way to illustrate that, because like even to this day, like the Occupy Wall Street movement's kind of like a badge of honor among leftists. Like, I was a leftist before even that happened. It's like, because that was a big moment for a lot of people when they kind of woke up to the bullshit, you know. And like to this, like today, that seems almost tame compared to, you know, the conversations that we're having now. So I think you're making a great point.
100%. And I think that the further we can move the Overton window left within the Democratic Party, that is our only potential salvation. It might not be our salvation, but it is the only potential that it's the largest potential that I think we have, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's the most realistic, even though it's not. I don't like it.
Yeah,
I think
I don't
is
either. It sucks
realistic.
ass. It's fucking terrible.
But you know, what else are you gonna do other than, you know, violent revolution? Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
What's
next?
Sorry, yeah.
I mean,
no, go ahead.
I
was gonna say, it's like there is another solution too, but I think it's a
option.
Yeah, I think so. There's okay. So it isn't an either or situation. I think it is kind of a false dichotomy, but this is another solution that I think that we need to also take seriously as well. Is that I think what we might really seriously need to do, and what has shown me that this might be possible, is we need to dissolve groups like PSL, the Green Party of America, and we need to create this new movements for a people party. I think offers a huge amount of potential. Dissolve those parties, organize with a people's party, merge them together, and then you actually start scaring Democrats. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to leave the Democratic Party, right? But what you do by creating an actual viable third party with a people's. Have you guys heard about the Movements Party? I'm sure you guys have heard about them. They just had their convention recently.
I actually haven't. No.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
No.
So, yeah, so like there's been it's called a movement for a people's party. They had Marianne Williamson. They had
I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they had Cornel West talk, and I think in 2021 they will form a party. But in order for them to form a halfway successful party, the Green Party is going to have to step down. And I think their messaging's better, because the Green Party appears as a one-party issue. I think this is their issue across like internationally. Like I think parties that are like the Green Party or like one. That they have the one single aesthetic issue. It fucking sucks, and I wish I'm voting Green. And I think the Green Party is the best party in the United States right now. But I think it needs to go. I think what we can do is we can kind of mimic with the People's Party, like the NDP in Canada. I think that might be
okay. But hang on, wait. As a poli-sci major, though, the efficacy of this plan, I'm skeptical. Like. Okay. The plan for a third party, I've never seen the efficacy for this as a plan to overtake the electoral politics in the country.
No. I don't think. No. Sorry, I could have probably elaborated on that. No, like if you're going to beat the Democratic Party and become the prevailing electoral force, no, fuck no. No. Like I'm very skeptical of electoral politics for the most part. I think direct action is the most important thing we can do. I'm just saying in the electoral sphere of like what we were talking about with Joe Biden and stuff like that. Right. There's that working within the DNC to move that Overton window left, but also a People's Party emerging, a unified left party. Also does that for us too, right? It moves the Democratic Party left because
so you're talking ideologically rather than like
a little bit,
party.
I mean, obviously, but in order to move ideologically, you got to have an electoral force of sorts. Right. And so I think that like if we can do that, I think that's great because there is no unified left party at all. Like obviously,
Right.
like we know the Democratic Party is a center right party, and if that, so I think that's an interesting approach. I just thought it was worth mentioning. It's not anything that I'm like fucking emotionally attached
I think that
to.
with all these things you're saying, like the most scary thing is just the fact that it might not work, no matter what we do.
And then
And-
you have like Republicans winning even more.
Right, and you throw climate change into the mix, and suddenly there's a time limit on everything. You know.
So, and maybe you guys have talked about this on another podcast. I'll shut the fuck up. What do you guys think specifically? What do you guys think if there is? Because I know there is a very nihilistic approach to this because we're all beaten down to death and stuff. So, what if there is a potential solution? What do you guys see?
Go ahead, David.
Oh, I mean, like obviously, like I'd rather have Biden than Trump currently, but like I mean, that's a potential solution is like I guess like trying to push the Dems like more to the left, but you know how successful we're gonna be in that is yet to be seen. But we'll see if Biden wins. But those poll numbers looking scary. Looking like 2016 again. To be honest with you,
Definitely. I think honestly we agree.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna
say I think we agree for the most part. Like I would say like in a perfect world I would not agree with anything you're saying, but the truth is like we don't have a lot of options, and I think that like our ability to use direct action to get what we want right now is severely limited, and so I think that we have to just like you said, latch on to what we can and make changes where we can. And I think like I think that we all have to be honest with ourselves and admit that it's not necessarily going to work. And I think like as long as people can all agree, like we're going to do this, knowing that this is not the ultimate goal. This is just the first step. My biggest concern is the Obama scenario where, much like when Obama won the presidency, people get lazy. They lose their motivation. They think, oh, we won. This is a short-term thing and we won. And now we can just sit back and Obama's not going to do anything bad. So we can just relax for a while. And I'm worried about that.
Strikes, don't worry about it.
Right, exactly. I'm worried about that.
Concentration camps to the border.
But like you said, we have to be honest too about the fact that the Overton window has shifted. I mean, it's just there's a new political reality in this country, and so people who say simplistically like, "Oh, we've tried this in the past," they're being dishonest. Like this is a different scenario. This is a different environment. People are more willing to accept leftist ideas than they used to in the past, and I think. So, maybe electorally, it's not impossible to have some small victories. So, I think for the most part, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think, and maybe even more specifically, I don't actually view, I'm not it's hard to avoid this, but I'm not a big fan of binaries. I don't necessarily view, I see electoral politics affecting direct action and vice versa. So I think that obviously there is a separation between the two and we should conceptually look at it like that. But I think it's something that I think from the left it can be very easy to sort of get into is like fuck electoral politics. And I mean, a lot of people do that. They just I'm just not going to vote. I mean, not a lot of people on the left, but there are some who like, I'm just not going to vote. It's like I think partaking in electoral politics and direct action is important. Not equally important. I think direct action is far more important. But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah, and I think like this new kind of hip thing among leftists to like, oh, I'm not going to participate in electoral politics. It's like you're kind of just losing at their game, like
that's what they want you to do.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think like it's true that we don't
trying.
have many good choices, but that doesn't mean you just fold. Like like there's no reason.
If you fold your hand, the Dems like, all right, so clearly we shouldn't cater to the left. We should cater more to the right.
Exactly.
100%.
There needs to be stakes for them, or they have no reason to actually concede to our wants and needs. Hell yeah.
100%.
Yeah, but talking about that, Trump, he's encouraging U.S. citizens to illegally vote twice because there's this whole like mail-in ballot thing. He's like, they're gonna do it, so we got to do it too. Like literally telling people to commit felony fucking crimes in some states.
That's fine. Do it. Vote twice, motherfuckers.
Yeah, go
Dude,
ahead.
I vote at least 10 times a day. It's one of my favorite things to do, honestly.
Yeah, for real. Just after I'm done watching Netflix, go ahead and vote another 3 times. For,
all my dead relatives, they're all voting.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. how do you guys think about? It's always a question in my head. What do you guys think about? Like, because it's always, it comes up. What do you guys think about when do you guys, might be an interesting question. When do you guys think, where's the line where we leave the country if shit gets bad enough?
We've talked about this so much
So
outside
much.
of the podcast. Like,
yeah, I mean,
this is a regular
you
conversation.
could say now, fucking like, is it
Yeah.
a good time to leave the country? But like, I don't know. I got a lot of family here. Like, I
Yeah.
got no family anywhere else. It's like, you know, how are you gonna leave the fucking country if you got no money?
You don't speak any other languages, right, David? Just like a little bit of Spanish.
I understand Spanish, but I can't speak. Yeah.
Yeah, I barely speak Japanese, but it's not like Japan is much better. I mean, it's basically America light.
Capitalist to the hell,
So
yeah.
Sure.
yeah, I mean, we have talked about this a lot. Do you think it's immoral to like flee a capitalist like hell world because you don't want to be here anymore, or do you have an obligation to stay?
I actually, so I think, I mean, I haven't thought a lot about that, but my hunch tells me no, I don't think it's necessarily immoral, because think about what you're asking of someone, that's a lot to ask. Granted, I think that there is a moral good of doing that, right? It is the more moral thing to do, but I think that staying, if you can give yourself a sense of responsibility, staying as long as you can's the thing. I think I talk a lot of game, me and my girlfriend, and my younger brother, we all live together. We talk a lot of game of like, God damn, man, like at any moment, like, fuck, we gotta think about, like, we gotta have an exit strategy. And now if Trump is elected, we really have to have an exit strategy. Like,
yeah,
real, like,
yeah, for real. I mean, like, I'm
Yeah.
scared of getting fucking like hunted down. It's like, all right, we know this guy's a fucking commie. We got his address. Let's fucking, plant the gun.
100%. And I want to illustrate this further for some people who are, you guys live in the South too, so this is more evident. And so I want to illustrate this to any person kind of thinking that, like, I think most people who view your guys' podcast will be like, okay, yeah, I totally understand why you'd want to leave. But to truly illustrate how insanely violent it could get whenever Trump wins again. In my high school, I graduated in 2016. I'm 23. And my first year of college was the 2016 election. And my high school, right after I left, there was this poor girl, was a foreign exchange student from the Middle East, I believe, somewhere, and she wore a hijab to school. And I lived in rural-ish Missouri. The high school is Fort Osage High School. If for some weird reason this podcast blows up and some person from Fort Osage High School is like listening to this, the high school fucking sucks. Leave that area after you graduate. Get the fuck out of East Independence. But they took her hijab after Trump won, took it off, smashed it on the ground, and yelled at her to leave the country. And she cried. Wow. She, of course, cried and then left the school and had to go transfer to another school. And so that's just like, uh-oh. Is he leaving?
Yeah, just disconnected, but she'll be back. Yeah, there we go. Hello?
That computer just decided to turn off.
I think that the essence of like taking the hijab off, throwing it on the ground, that is a modicum. That is a small little piece of what could happen if Trump wins again. I think people like really are overly optimistic about how fucked we are right now. And I have no doubt that that left-wing people, either from a political system, will be jailed, or from like right-wing militias who are acting on a partisan like hunch of the government, will start fucking killing people. Like,
people don't think that that's real. People don't think that what you're saying is a realistic thing that will happen, but that it's going to come out of nowhere. Like, it's going to be sudden, and people like us are, they're going to face serious consequences.
Yeah,
you're
and
totally
like,
right.
I see a lot more leftist people arming themselves. These people, they already got the guns.
I'm armed.
Yeah.
So it's and
it's a sad reality.
Yeah, and then this brings us into gun policy, which I'm very much, I have a very interesting take on gun policy, kind of, not really. But
okay, I don't want to taint yours, so you share yours first, and then we'll share.
So I do have a Ruger. I have a Ruger 1022. It's a little semi-automatic, it's pretty small. It's a 22 caliber gun, but like, I think most left-wingers are more armed than what people think, and I think it's the sort of psychological right-wing macho man tendency it makes sense that they're the ones that brandish their weapons. A lot of left-wingers aren't going to do that, but I mean, I'll be honest, like in the larger scale, I'm not going to say that left-wing people are going to want to fucking kill people, but like, if you try to fucking kill people, if you try to kill me, I mean, you might kill me, fuck, I don't know, that would suck. But like, people like they're armed, and it's like going to result in a lot of violence. But I think in a lot of ways, to get into theory or psychoanalysis, I think a lot of right wingers, they have that death drive right into their fucking
they're
being.
ready to fucking kill. I mean, we already
they have been waiting
in Kenosha. Like this guy, you know, come from a whole fucking different state. This guy came there with the intent to kill. He was looking to kill someone.
100%.
Like, and the worst part is that, you know, he might get like less than a year and like a fine.
Right, like personal fucking self-defense, you know,
it's
involuntary manslaughter.
I am a little bit. I think as time goes on with how insanely turbulent this world, this U.S. world that we are living in, I am getting more and more closer to like, get armed, get a fucking gun. But if this is 3 years ago, I would 3 or 4 years ago, I'd be like, no, don't. In a sense, but I could explain kind of why. Because when you look at like, I'm trying to see how far I want to take this. Essentially, I'll give a footnotes version of this, and I hold the position in a vacuum. We don't live in a vacuum, but in a vacuum, less guns per capita, the better, because there's statistics on that. The less guns you have per capita, less people die due to gun violence. And I think that's definitely something we should take seriously. But not living in a vacuum, living in the turbulent times we're living in, where people are, you know, you're dealing with an extremely far right country. It might really be wise to at least like that gun being armed and actually kind of being a little bit more open about it might actually deter future violence. So
yes, I 100% agree. And I think your point about how 3 years ago you'd have been like, no, don't. That was me as well. Like I was very anti-gun, like the whole liberal like gun control thing. I was very much in that camp. And, you know, and I think still to this day, I agree, like in my perfect society, like guns would be rare because I don't think that they're necessary unless you're defending yourself. But the truth and the reality of the situation is we need to defend ourselves now.
I even think in like, exactly. I even think in like a social democracy scenario, like even in Scandinavia, like I actually think it's good, the restrictions that they have. Again, like there is a point about the liberal argument about, and it's, I don't even want to call it a liberal argument because it's really, like, it's just when you're looking at policy, you do want to follow some guidelines of data. And the data truly takes you to a position of, well, we just kind of really need to get guns out of people's hands for the most part. But obviously, the world is so much more sticky. It's so much more nuanced that when you're approaching the question of having an entire armed country, I think right now, yes. And honestly, we never even talked about minority groups being armed. Minority groups, yes, 100% do it now.
Double important.
Double important.
Like, they're being hunted, you know, fucking ICE. Like ICE recently, they like arrested 10,000 people. Like even if they like didn't have like never committed a crime. Like if you didn't have you know, like if you were illegal, like they were getting you. And I think it's the most fucked thing, dude, because like especially with fucking Corona happening, like you know, prison rates, like I'm pretty sure you're
I see on the agenda.
Yeah, like
if you're
an inmate, you're twice likely to fucking die like from Corona. So it's
right, and I know when Corona first started, David, like speaking of inmates, I know we talked on pod about a video from a guy with a contraband cell phone who was recording his inmate like dying of COVID, and they didn't have any PPE or anything, and the guy's basically saying like, I'm going to get in big trouble for this, but they're leaving us to die. I have no choice. So he posted it online and it blew up.
I want to fucking cry, dude.
Yes, it does. And that was months ago. I have no idea what happened.
I don't think we actually contend. Like I don't think like hearing stories like that, it's so easy. And, you know, getting into critical theory with Marcuse and Adorno, obviously they make it so clear that how easy we can become distracted by such fucking horrible things that are going on. But like, dude, it's so fucking real. Like the prison system in this country, we are going to look back in 100 years, we're going to be like, what the fuck?
Like what the fuck? Like for-profit prisons, what the fuck were we thinking?
A factory of human fucking misery and slavery.
Labor. Fuck.
It's mind-blowing. It's absolutely fucking insane. And you know, I think like what you guys are doing, I think this is actually like really good. I would like to say that we're doing a really good job of kind of trying to like come from a pluralistic, multifaceted approach to all of this, that like, especially like, because I think it's some of like the main focus of your podcast is sort of to convey leftist politics, maybe from like a Southern perspective, like maybe from a position of like being in the middle of very right-wing territory.
Right.
I think that that's pretty cool. I think that's what kind of drew me to you guys, was that I actually think there is no more. I think that the most important activism in this country often exists in the South, and I think that's where you get into characters like Charlotte fucking Clymer, who are like sips tea, Georgia people fucking dying of COVID. It's like it's horrible, and it's like it truly like I think having this approach to like really showing the sheer anti-humanity that exists in the United States. And especially like having the perspective of you guys on this podcast and taking it, you like, we're from the fucking South, we're in the fucking middle of it. It's so important.
I mean, that's why we started it, honestly. Like,
you know, we want
David and I have been friends for years.
Yeah, we want to I definitely was fucking like either like a centrist like years ago, but like I've become fucking very radicalized. And like, you know, like Bernie Sanders, like really fucking like, you know, like I was one of the fucking people Bernie Sanders like helped radicalize. Now I'm like even more radical than he is, you know. So, like, more on the left. Yeah,
all of us, we all have our own like little personal Discord, and we all went through this this Bernie phase where we slowly, you know, we reached his amount of leftness and then rocketed right past, and you know, we were standing Bernie, and then he lost, and then we had to go through that phase of denial where we're like, no.
There was definitely a doomer Bernie phase a couple months ago.
I think one of the more I think there's actually like a level of like not like real trauma that people exist, but like a level of like political trauma that kind of has, you know, manifested throughout the left because of like what's happened with Bernie Sanders. I can't like even this 2020. I mean, the beginning of the primary, you're like, dude, he's going to do this. Like, I took out max student loans one semester.
Caleb was talking about that. He's like, bro, I'm about to pull out like 10 grand because Bernie's about to wipe that shit.
I fucking did, and then like, and then fucking Barack Obama makes a call, Pete Buttigieg and fucking Amy Klobuchar drop out, and then, but that's terrible, man, because it's like it just shows that like democracy is the ultimate fucking facade, and like we were talking about Zizek. Zizek gives like. I think Zizek is very skeptical about democracy. I think Zizek's position, again, you get to like the typical sort of, I know some people really hate this term, but I kind of like the tanky approach or like, fuck democracy, like fucking bullshit. Like we should still try to strive for democracy, but like Zizek sort of says that like, man, it's kind of like democracy is a little bit of an illusion because even among democratic systems, it's not really democracy and it fades away. And then even with like, systems that should be democratic under Marxists, because the Marxists traditionally are the most democratic out of any political institution, but it doesn't necessarily end up that way. And I think that really that idea of I want to say, like, you know, we're talking about Zizek, the Lacanian real. This coming up and just like obliterating our entire symbolic order, how we view the world. Like, oh man, Bernie Sanders, I donated $300 to him, which I did, around $300. It's like, and then it obliterates my entire political existence, and it's fucking hard, man. It sucks.
God, our podcast like started a little before like the November shit, right? Like we were like, you know, we would talk about that shit, and we were like so hyped for Bernie, but like we would always talk about in these debates, like they were targeting Bernie, like, you know, it's like it was Bernie and Biden, obviously, like we're just gonna be the two front runners, and like all these centrists, like, goddamn, like, but Bernie, you know, he was like so passive sometimes too. And it was so annoying. It's like, Bernie, come on, go.
I think at the end of the day, I think Bernie's 2020 campaign was I think it was it wasn't ran the best. I actually, a lot of people are like, man, it's total fucking bullshit, they did a terrible job. I don't think it was really that bad. I think though there was plenty of things that they really should have done differently. I think they should have hammered some stuff in a little bit easier. I think if Bernie stopped calling Joe Biden his fucking friend, that would have helped a little bit.
I think, it's like Bernie knew that he was gonna drop out. Like, he was he felt like he conceded way too early.
Yeah, and and if that is the case, that may have actually been the fucking case, man. I never actually thought about it. I never really thought about it that way. Bernie, knowing that he would drop out halfway through, may have been totally fucking real. Obviously, if leftists, I think that's probably what some people have taken on. I still think Bernie Sanders is an indefinite net positive in every fucking way.
For sure. Like, he's radicalized so many people. Like, he's only done good. But like,
and we like to shit talk about him on this podcast all the time because, like I said, he broke our hearts. I mean, that's just a fact. But
still going
to
through
the
it.
leftists on Twitter who like to shitpost about how he's like a net negative and he's just a monster to the left, I mean, that's obviously bullshit. He radicalized so many people. He's done more than most of us will do in our life to further the leftist movement, and that should definitely be acknowledged.
100%. I think we're gonna look back in 50 years too. Well, I think a lot of people realize this. We'll look back in 50 years and look at the two primary losses of Bernie Sanders as being one of the largest political tragedies in the country, for sure.
For sure, yeah. The devil says in the chat, study the Spanish Civil War. It's a blueprint on what could happen here.
Oh yeah. Oh buddy. Oh man.
Spanish Civil War.
Yeah.
We don't want to. We don't want to deal with that. Okay.
Dude, people on the right love talking about the Civil War. They're like, the Civil War is coming. Like it's encroaching upon us. People like Tim Pool, who like claim they're liberal, but are actually fucking alt right. You know, they're far on the right.
I would argue Tim Pool.
So
Speaking of Tim Pool, for the longest time, I'd actually say he was the perfect encapsulation of a liberal up until like 6 months ago, and he turned straight fucking fascist, like completely.
I mean, it's the grift, bro. It's the grift.
Yes, exactly.
It makes money.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, David, like, because we've been working on this podcast for a while. We've had conversations late at night, like, what if we just broke bad, man? Like, what if we just became a Tucker Carlson or something like that? It's so much easier. The Ben Shapiro's of the world. You can just lie. You can just make shit up.
Like,
you don't have to try.
Yeah.
And you have a built-in audience of fucking people that just love it. They love it.
100%. I have a stepsister that is she's a big giant Trump supporter, absolutely enamored, like you said, that there is always a willing audience because it's an entertainment thing. It's not an actual like practice of moral doing or anything with politics. It's not that at all. It's entertainment, and it's a feel good endeavor, and there will always be a right-wing audience because it validates their entire status quo existence in the world around them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The devil says Tim Pool is a tool. Retweet on that one, brother.
Fucking Tim Pool really is actually one of the most egregious characters I think on the internet, if not the most. Like, I think that's why I spoke about, like, the conversation was moving past Tim Pool, and I apologize if I totally.
You're fine.
No, it's good.
But Tim Pool really is the most vile human I think arguably on the internet. Like, I really cannot fucking stand him.
I mean, it's because like it's not like his videos don't get fucking views. They get like 500,000 views, and like they're 40 fucking minutes long of him just reading an article and looking at Twitter and like just reading. Like
100%,
it's like 40 minutes of him reading.
And you know what I also notice about like a lot of like a lot of like right wingers or people who I think the people who are best at appearing as if they know what they're sort of talking about are actually the worst. They actually are the most dumb. So like I think about that as like Jordan Peterson being another one where like his debate with Slavoj Žižek was so, oh my God, I couldn't imagine a more apparent just like showcasing of how actually uneducated he was on virtually everything theory related. And I think Tim Pool does the same thing. Like, but Tim Pool will like debate. He will debate like sort of leftist, but like David Pakman. David Pakman was so fucking nice to him, dude. I would like. I mean, I think it's a little corny to say, oh, I would fucking do this, but like really, like I don't know how people don't fucking rip into him and just like fucking.
I would destroy you in the marketplace of ideas, you fool.
Dude, God damn, I don't know how people are so nice to people like that. I get some people who there might be reason to believe that they're actually more receptive. Like I would say there's some right wingers or center right figures that absolutely have that conversation and debate, but not with Tim Pool. It's so fucking clear that like he doesn't care.
When they're grifters, you're not gonna change their mind. You should be preaching to the audience. Like, you don't need to show them respect.
Yeah, right. It's so easy to like find like debate these, like when it's actually in a debate format and it's not like these like you let the fucking this far right person just like go on for like 10 minutes straight because they'll just say 10 minutes of fucking lies and you're like, all right, hold up, we got to go back to the first thing you said because that was a fucking lie. And then it's like what in an actual like debate format when it's like you have 2 minutes to speak and then the person can rebuttal, right? Like you can see that these people get fucked on every single time.
Yeah, they get flustered. It's hard when you actually have to answer to your bullshit, you know.
It is. It's and I think that's there is an essence that brings us up to another sort of like weird dichotomy in debate is that is it better to platform right wing? I actually think like heavy right wingers don't you dare fucking platform them. But there is also something a little bit like there are probably modicums. There's smaller subsets of people within their audience that are probably receptive to them being completely fucking obliterated in a debate. So that's actually an interesting question I always have. It's like, God, do you fucking platform these people, or do you just like I'm actually inclined to say probably not, because I think the majority, like we were talking about, the postmodern right, they don't give a fuck about facts or logic.
Yes.
Like the Ben Shapiro fucking crowd would like to claim that they believe. But I do see the utility in just absolutely making them look like fucking idiots.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
this is a common conversation we have.
Yeah, you're not going to change their mind, but maybe you can change the mind of the audience who are like still forming ideas, you know.
We have this conversation a lot about Joe Rogan, because like our biggest problem with him is not actually him or his content. It's the fact that he platforms people that we disagree with and then doesn't adequately attack their position. Right. He allows them to have an open mic, basically to spew some bullshit that's just blatantly false or ideologically repugnant, and then doesn't respond to it in a way that I think is fair or adequate. And I think that's my main problem with him.
100%.
I think it's difficult to platform right wingers because you yourself need to have a breadth of knowledge in order to address their points, or else you're gonna look like an idiot, and then people in their audience are gonna
like
exactly.
Like you have to be okay, like you have to refute. Like sometimes like what they're saying is like statistically true. You know, they lie with the stats and percentages. Like you gotta like get them on that shit.
They use stats and then they muck up the context of the stats in order to use it for their own ideological gain.
Someone who does that is Ben Shapiro better than anybody. And that's also
he's
that's
an
another
expert
thing about
at this
platform. Oh, I mean, you could easily like decipher and completely fucking obliterate Ben Shapiro, but what he does do on his show without any background knowledge is, like, my little brother's actually pretty, like, he watches debates far more than me. But he was watching a debate with, or he was watching a video of Ben Shapiro talking about a racial bias study. So did you guys hear about the study where they gave like these companies, it was a social study. They gave these companies like 80 applications, and they had like traditional African American names. And they noticed that the first study is that there was like a 40% decrease in their ability to get called back. And then
if their name was like Jamal rather than John.
Exactly.
Right.
And then there's a second study that came out. All right. And then Ben Shapiro was like, guys, a new study fucking came out, and it showed that there's actually no racial bias to anything. But in the study, because the study concluded that, like, no, there's marginal like differences, but baked into the study, dude, the name difference was not even any different. They gave like African American names like John, Thomas, like all these names, and so purposefully like misconstruing an entire study that is so unscientific and trying to target racial bias. But like right wingers will eat that shit up.
They
like
love that shit. Yeah, dude, my dad knew that shit like before I was born. That's why like my name is David, and like not like a traditional Hispanic name, because he knew if you have a white name, like a Christian name, like you're probably gonna do better on applications, right? My dad like fucking knew that shit.
I didn't even know that about you.
Us two white dudes, that's insane, but that makes perfect sense. That's sad. That's actually insane.
Yeah, we had this conversation the other day. I think I was asking, like, if you could choose like a name for your kid, like you would obviously choose one that was like white, right? To say that you wouldn't
like,
is kind of a lie.
James, my sister's name is Jennifer. Like brother name is Frankie. It's like
that is that has got to be a central focus to like baby naming for
it is for
people
sure
that are that is like the first time I thought about that there is probably an active like effort into just like naming their children white, like holy crap.
But I think this brings us like what we're talking about, like, right wings and like the person debating them, like going easy on them, like Chris Wallace. There was that interview where he absolutely fucked Trump, right, live on TV. And like it was surprising.
Absolutely fucked, meaning that he just actually asked him questions that make sense.
It was going after points. He said going after shit when he fucking lied. He's like, look at this chart right here. Actually, like, it was good to watch because it was a breath of fresh air. Because like no one like has gone hard on Trump, but finally, and then Trump's Fox News. I've started to hate Fox News. It was funny.
And to a lot of people like who listen to that, their inclination is like, fuck, that is like because it's so true, right? We do not push We do not push authority at all. Like in almost any virtual sense, in a career position, educational position, any position, we do not actually like target status quo ideas. And it's so evident with how the media treats presidents, people in Congress and stuff like that. And it just shows you how actually authoritarian this fucking country is. Like, and like we're getting into the Theodore Adorno, Horkheimer, Herbert Marcuse idea that like actually the United States is more authoritarian than the USSR, more authoritarian than China by way of just the psychological conditioning of how we view authority.
Yes.
And I mean, and we think about these other countries, these Eastern countries, as like super authoritarian, and they were in a lot of respects, but they were more upfront about their authoritarianism. And their strong
exactly.
We like to, hush hush about it.
Exactly. Yeah. But in the United States, it is the perfect, and I mean utterly perfect. Capitalism is perfect in this regard, in brainwashing and adapting to just everything. Like the Marcusean concept of repressive desublimation. I don't know if you guys have heard about that. Is utterly perfect. It's one of the greatest concepts ever. And to anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's ultimately that the essence of this idea is that capitalism isn't this rigorous hardcore structure that just fucking beats people over the fucking head if they don't step out of line. No, it's capitalism is so good at adapting to social progress and embedding good consciousness and everything into the commodity itself. So, for example, you go to I worked seasonally at Target like 2 years ago.
Same.
Yeah, I did that, and the orientation was like, we support LGBTQ plus communities. You can wear tattoos, do all of these things, but don't you fucking dare try to unionize or ask for a wage
or we'll shut down.
Yeah. And it's the idea that capitalism is so able and ready to adapt at any moment is it just shows how authoritarian it is, not necessarily on purpose, but just by proxy of its very existence.
Yeah, and it's such a like people like when you talk about like capitalism and like why capitalism bad, like you have to fucking break it down for them, and like you really have to like because it's so ingrained into our society, like people can't imagine a world without it. And it's crazy.
100%.
And what you mentioned about like people like kind of pushing this morality, this worth onto the object itself, like that's the basis of like the fetishization of commodities, right? Like like that is exactly what you're talking about. Like this is everything. It's all connected. It's so interesting.
100% that we can't view reality outside of the commodity form. And that's the thesis of like everything Zizek. It's like our ideology is completely baked into our one thing. He takes the Althusserian approach. Althusser sort of has a little bit of a different approach, but like he takes a very Althusserian approach that like ideology is inescapable, but Zizek claims that because Althusser still has the traditional Marxist view on ideology, I believe that ideology distorts our reality. But it's not so. It's that ideology is our reality, and any distortion is sort of a distorting effect of the ideology of our nature. That probably is way too confusing.
It makes sense for me having read Zizek, but I guess for a lot of people probably.
So ultimately, the movie. I'll explain a little bit about Zizekian ideology. The movie, the dude puts on the glasses and he sees like
in your video,
and there was an interview with Zizek. He explains this perfectly. Is like this movie had the correct idea. It's usually we view ideology as there's reality. There is the Kantian thing in of itself, the ultimate reality, the ultimate truth, and then we put the glasses on, and then and then we put the ideological glasses on, right? Then we subscribe to political indoctrination practices, whatever ideology we so subscribe to. But the actual reality is that ideology is the reality, and to put glasses on, you're seeing past ideology. And so it's perfect in the sense of the United States. It explains it perfectly because when we think about solutions about how to fix climate change, well, what do corporations do? And Zizek talks about this. I put this in my video where he's like, do you guys have Starbucks? He was in Poland. Do you guys have Starbucks here? And he was like, if I was a terrorist, I'm not a terrorist, but if I was, I would fucking bomb it. And he was like, he was like fucking terrible. He was like this poster saying that like our cappuccinos cost just a little bit more, but that little bit extra money goes to Guatemalan children, poor children. Like, what is that message? The message is that your good conscience, your moral doing in the world is baked into the commodity itself.
Yes.
In America,
Into consumption
into
itself.
consumption.
Yes.
And yeah, it's brilliant and it's genius and it's I fucking love it. I love Zizek.
So do I. He's honestly one of my idols. Like, that's why I was so excited to have you on today. Like, because I honestly, like, I'm gonna be honest, I forgot you were coming on today. All right, David handles all that stuff. I don't deal with that. I just show up when the podcast is supposed to go live, and I talk my shit and I leave. But when I saw you were coming, I looked at your video and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be great. I love Zizek. He's a huge idol of mine. So yeah, this has been a great conversation.
Hell,
I think we're kind of running low on time, David, aren't we?
Okay. We feel
We've
free.
been going for an hour and 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's do maybe one last topic and let's wrap it up. Okay.
Yeah. So what I have on here is the SpaceX. They have a star. The Starlink. Have you heard of this, Ian?
That's the thing where he's giving everyone internet, right?
Yeah. So basically, what he's trying to do is
Neuralink
like access to internet and like even rural parts. That's like really decent, right? What's your thoughts on Starlink, and how do you even feel about Elon Musk?
So guys, my first YouTube video, if you guys didn't know, was about Elon Musk. I
haven't seen it. I'll have to watch it after this.
It's a terribly edited video. I don't like Elon Musk at all. But so with Neuralink, I'm actually not terribly educated.
No, it's the Starlink, like the satellite thing, the internet. The Neuralink, he's also doing some.
You can talk about that too. We actually talked about that last episode. David has a hot take. We'll bring that up later.
Okay.
But the Starlink thing is the internet satellites, where he's basically like, much like how Facebook is trying to take over, be like, built in everywhere. He's trying to do it as well, where he has satellite internet across the entire globe. And, even places like rural India will be able to like pay a very nominal fee and have access to his internet.
I think Elon Musk is the perfect fucking capitalist in every fucking way.
Yeah.
The most perfect encapsulation of capitalism in its core. It's like because on the surface, all of these things are good, right? I talk about this a little bit in the video. I don't even want to promote this video because this is like my first video. It was actually pretty bad, but it's one of my better ones that like done performance wise. But I think Elon Musk just he presents these things in a such a good way that the most politically apathetic people are like, fuck yeah, this is awesome, renewable energy.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, like there's so much sinister shit that he does with like union busting, labor rights, all of these things that like, giving the like, that's cool. Like having a global internet connection is something in the future that will have to happen. By any means of privatization with that endeavor, I'm skeptical. Beyond skeptical. I'd almost say that like this needs to be a global initiative on a governmental level.
Yeah,
I agree. The idea that one man or one entity can do it. David was mentioning yesterday off pod, like he was excited about the idea that everyone's getting internet, of course. And like, I think that's actually great. I think honestly, internet, like we need to start considering it basically a human right. Like it's a basic
100%.
access to internet, whether it's a great connection or not, I don't think necessarily needs to be great, but just a basic connection to internet. I think every human, we should strive to allow that.
Yeah, especially with like all this online learning and switching things to online.
Oh, it's
it's like
it's even more
just
apparent
the resources at your fingertips. I feel like to not allow everyone to have that is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's sad because like I see like some images on Twitter, like these two the girls, like they're trying to like they don't have internet at home, so like they like sit outside like some fast food restaurant to do their schoolwork.
I saw that
it's
picture.
Like, oh my god, like
two like 10-year-old girls like in their school outfits with their backpacks on, just sitting outside like a Taco Bell using their free Wi-Fi.
Oh my god. Oh fuck
just
me,
on
dude.
the concrete.
But
man.
it's like Elon Musk is doing it. I fucking hate the dude. Like, he says some questionable shit on Twitter. But like with the having internet like everywhere, I think it's just good because like I feel like you come to like the leftist conclusion if you just if you research, if you just look things up. Like
you think?
Yeah, like but like what I worry about, like maybe you might get tricked into being a fucking far right, but like
that's my
having
concern.
Access to information is very important.
I think access. So I'm a little bit more skeptical about the conclusion that it'll be a. So I think I would agree that like yes, I think that the ultimate synthesis that people will come to is a more left wing conclusion than at any time in history. But I think sometimes we can be a little bit over optimistic with that. And I use again like a historical example is the printing press. When the printing press came out, people were like again when it first came out a long fucking time ago, they were like, oh well, like people are going to be educated, this will transform the world. Well, really, you can write a bunch of bullshit in fucking books and sell it to people. And I think the internet kind of has a little bit of a problem, but I do agree with the thesis that it is probably a net positive for sure to have. Well, not only is it a net positive on an political and information ideological level, but obviously for means of like like even surviving in the world, everyone needs internet pretty much.
Yes,
pretty much,
definitely. And I mean, even if you want to take it one step further, just pleasure. I mean, the internet is a vast sea of pleasurable things that you can look at and do. And I think even just that is worth striving for.
100%.
And yeah, I don't know. I think that what you brought up about information, I think is a great point. I think the most important part is like the privatization aspect, because I think that having access to free information over time, like even just like not to be too optimistic, I think it does make sense that people would reach a left-wing conclusion over time in the long run. But who owns the free internet? Who allows? Who decides what information is accessible on that internet? It ultimately will decide, I think, what conclusions people reach.
Sure, and it's going to become more corporatized as time goes on. I think, I unless something we do something, unless there's like major antitrust laws in the United States.
Yeah, and I mean we've seen recently with it's been a few years, but like the government was trying to infringe on the freedom of the internet a while ago with some bill that I can't remember the name of now. But and I know a lot of people there was a huge uproar on the internet about that. But I think that much like other things, there's only so long you can put up a fight against endless capital before you're just like, all right, whatever. Like I'm tired. I can't keep doing this anymore. Like
talking about
whatever. I guess my internet's just going to be shitty now.
Talking about the sheer authoritarianism of capitalism in a sense,
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and if you said you made a video on Neuralink, you said.
No, I made a video on Elon Musk. It's titled "Why do?" Because it's a good question. It's a question that a lot of more politically apathetic or uneducated people ask, and it's a very valid question in my opinion. The video is titled "Why do people hate Elon Musk?" I kind of go into like Elon Musk does really good things, but he's also associated with fucking vile things. And it's not necessarily because Elon Musk is a vile person per se. He's integrated into such a fucking vile system that the only moral calculation is profit. That's like it.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that people run into this issue a lot as well with a huge American figure, Bill Gates. Like, I mean, the most simple and obvious one, I think. I think Jeff Bezos less so, which is, I guess, because of, his lack of focus on the philanthropy. And I think like Bill Gates's attempt, not even attempt, I would say his success in painting himself as like a selfless philanthropist really is what made people huge fans of him, even despite the fact that he, much like Elon Musk, built his wealth on the back of exploitation, just like any ultra rich capitalist like him. And I think, I don't know, like just this difference between charity and equity, I think a lot of people don't understand. Maybe they're not ready for that conversation or what. And I'll definitely have to check out your Elon Musk video. I think that'll probably be good.
Yeah, the last thing I want to touch
on before it was badly edited.
Before we wrap up, like our first episode, it's fucking dog shit. Like
terrible dog shit. Yeah, we should just private like the first 5 to 6 episodes. Honestly,
every time I look at this, like I see the plays go up, I'm like, fuck, like people are gonna think we're such a shit podcast because how bad our first episode is. But like,
for sure.
But hey, it's a learning process. But I want to talk about the Neuralink. Like, I guess Caleb said a hot take on it. My hot take is like, I think like if this Neuralink shit becomes popular, it's gonna be like the cell phone, and I think it's gonna be dangerous. Like the having access to right information to your brain, like fuck, dude. Like, are we just gonna become like zombies? Like, who knows what the fuck what can be done with that shit? And like, I think it might be like what the future.
There's
might be
no
heading
way.
Towards.
There's no way it would be like the cell phone.
So the reason why, here's why I think it's gonna be. It's like because like you have this thing in right, and like let's say you have a good credit score. right? And
Yeah.
you're gonna have this glowing golden aura that like you pay your fucking bills and shit, and like it's gonna be like, oh, you like and it's gonna be other shit like, okay, so this guy's clean. Like, this guy doesn't have, like, a clean record.
No criminal record.
Yeah, and so, like, people are going to be, like, to the people who don't have the fucking Neuralink, this chip in their brain, they're like, you don't, are you safe? Like, I don't know about you, you don't have it, but maybe if you do, we could talk. I don't know. I'm just worried about getting popularized because it's
going to be like a status symbol, you think? Like,
yeah, it's like having a Fitbit, it's like having a smartwatch, it's like,
yeah.
That's what I worry about. I'm not going to get the fucking chip for sure.
I think it's different though, because like it's implanted in your brain. I don't know if it's fair to make a comparison. Like, I don't know. Did you watch the video of him like showing the pigs with the implants?
Yeah, I saw. Yeah.
It was a very weird video. Like,
I never saw that, but yeah.
It was. It's basically just a bunch of pigs in a pen. Yeah,
like,
he recently showcased it, like David was saying.
He's like, he was basically trying to show off like. It's like you can't tell that this pig has one like compared to this pig that doesn't, like it leaves no like scar
except the fucking like big shit like sticking out of its head. And like I get that, yeah, it's like a prototype or whatever and it's just animal trials, but like he showed a diagram of it and it's directly connected into your brain. Like this thing interfaces with your brain like somehow by some magical powers.
Surgeon, like installs it and shit.
Yeah.
I like the idea. So like Elon Musk's thesis on Neuralink is that everything in the world, like information is already, I kind of like this idea. Fuck Elon Musk, but I do like this idea that information is already ours. It is with the internet, but it's a bandwidth issue. We can't get to it quick. You have to open your cell phone. You have to go search online about it. And then that chip in your brain solves it. But I'm thinking about like, the meaning of my life and like my entire life is surrounded by learning and shit like that. It's like not to sound too corny, but like that's all I really like. I love that shit, and that would obliterate all like that would obliterate my entire life's meaning. Yeah, like,
I think that
everything instantly. Fuck that.
Well, under a different like. In a different society, though, I would do that. Like, that's the thing is that who owns it is what's making me not want to do it. You know, like the idea that you could create a brain chip and download kung fu into your brain like the fucking Matrix, like that's awesome. That is sick as fuck. And if we could do that, I would definitely do that. But
I think that's a totally good area to approach that, because there are two elements of that, right? There is the intellectual, the conceptual element, and then there's the actual physical like skills and shit, like the Matrix, or you have like kung fu. And shit. That's a good way to look at it. Like if a chip could rewire our systems, our neurological symptoms or systems, so like we don't have anxiety or stuff like that, that would be beautiful. But I think I don't know. I'm a little bit more of a reactionary romantic with it, but I like when I'm thinking about information at the like the palm of my fingertips, I hate that. So much of my life is just
really
like a process of searching. Yeah, 100%.
Well, but finding it though, like finding that information is rewarding though, right?
Absolutely, but not on its. I think not on its own. I could totally see. I totally see the appeal. But for me, I was just thinking, and this begs the question. I'm sorry, guys. We are running on time. I'm so sorry. I do not want to.
No, it's fine. It's the last topic. Go ahead, King.
It's the episode, so it's fine.
I think the same thing, sort of, with like leaving the United States too preemptively in a political disaster. It's like that also is my life, and like that brings me meaning is the struggle, not in the motivation, fucking get up every morning, go to fucking work, that's your lead. Fuck that shit sucks. But like the idea that like we are that life is sort of like a not to get too philosophical, that it's like a long struggle and of a lot of different desires and things. I kind of subscribe to that a little bit. That's what I think about Neuralink when I think, I'm like, oh fuck, that sounds like dismal in some ways.
Yeah.
I can kind of like vibe with that idea, honestly. The struggle in life is what gives it meaning. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that we would evolve, much like our ideologies, like we would evolve as people and learn to, value new things rather than information or the search for information,
For sure.
But for me and for you, in the short term, that would probably be pretty jarring.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but he's claiming, it can do like a lot of amazing things for people who
make
lost
paralyzed people walk.
Like,
that's
it's
great.
Crazy shit. Like, and I'm all for that shit.
That's just a positive. That's just a net positive. I mean, if he can pull that off.
I just worry about it becoming dangerous.
Did you guys
Yeah,
hear about his
definitely.
music? Like it'll be able to play music in your head. That's scary as fuck.
That's
dude.
crazy.
Oh my god.
Just like
I-
thinking about music and then just it playing.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
David can be the guinea pig for this podcast. Like, you can get it, and then if it works out, okay, I'll get version 2.
You'll
And
get
we can
the bigger
interface.
version where we can
Yeah.
look at each other.
You'll have the
like,
shitty
instantly.
version, and I'll have
Yeah.
version 2 that's like
We
streamlined
wouldn't
and
even need a
sexy and like.
podcast anymore though, because like we'd like look at each other and it's like, oh yeah, I get it, man. All right, thanks for
Yeah.
listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, man.
So
Fuck.
I'm sorry. I've been drinking this coffee. I'm a fucking coffee fiend. I gotta piss really bad, but I
Yeah.
figured that might be
Yeah.
a good
Yeah, but
point
yeah, it's a
to,
good time.
sort of like jump off and stuff like
yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
no, seriously, guys, this is so much fun. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed this a lot. Like genuine. I like
It was awesome.
No, it was
Yes,
fun.
I
I
think it's
definitely had a
fun
good
as shit.
time.
Thank you
Alright.
so much for coming on, man. Hey,
Oh,
why don't you plug
dude.
your shit one more time before you leave, and then we can get out of here and we'll end the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I'll try to figure out. Actually, linking your channel is a little weird. So, like,
Yeah.
guys in chat, I'm looking at chat, and thank you, the devil. Thank you as well. Thanks for interacting and shit. I'm gonna try to
Yeah.
get my
Yes, thank you.
my channel link. Where the fuck? Oh, I'll go to my link tree or whatever on my Twitter. Feel free to follow my Twitter too. That's like a good way.
Yeah.
Or Instagram, whatever. I'll link.
If you message after the podcast, message us all your stuff. We'll put it in the description as well,
Yeah.
so that
Okay,
anyone
cool, yeah.
listening after can access
Yeah.
your stuff as well. I
Yeah,
really
awesome.
recommend going to watch his videos. They're great.
Yeah, especially
Great
the one
production value.
that he just
Big
dropped.
fan.
Really good.
Yep.
Thank you guys, dude. Anytime if you guys, anytime you guys want to do this, this is fun as shit. I really
yeah.
enjoy this.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, me and Caleb,
Yeah.
we fucking
Yeah,
we
you were
love
a
this
great
shit.
guest.
We're 32 episodes strong. We
right.
love this shit. So yeah,
Hell
we'd love to
yes.
have you again though, for sure.
All
Yeah.
right.
Thanks,
All right,
man.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on, guys. Chat. I'll see you. Thanks for having me on again. I'll see you guys.
Yep.
Later, man.
Yep, and that was
Awesome.
episode 32.
Wait, but before we leave,
Yeah.
I wanna do the chats. Okay, so sorry for not getting to this while he was here, guys. But the devil says it's one step closer to becoming the board. Microchips in the brain, bro. True. Like that's exactly what we're talking about here, man.
Yeah.
Like, today it's learning kung fu. Tomorrow it's fucking stormtroopers, and
Yeah,
everyone's gonna be
yeah,
killing
yeah,
each other.
yeah.
You know what
It's
I mean?
learning to obey capitalism and fucking,
Yeah.
Elon Musk's like, all right, guys, I'm the new God King, and this is just how life is gonna be now. And it's like,
True.
You're like, okay, like in your fucking brain. It's like, it's
Yeah,
funny.
there's actually a great movie that's about this called Upgrade, where the guy has like a chip in his brain and someone else is controlling him. It's so sick. I'm not gonna spoil it beyond that. Okay, and Two Flag says, I think Epoch Philosophy has a good point. Education and learning are often shown as being means to an end rather than being itself enjoyable. I totally agree. And I think I had this realization yesterday, David. I said it in the Discord. Like, I asked a question of my professor and he was like, that's a great question, Caleb. And he went on like a tangent about, answering my question. And in that moment, I was like, damn, I love learning,
I love it. Yeah.
Shit's so
You
good,
get it
man.
right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know, but then you think about it's like, damn, learning everything instantly would be pretty cool.
Yeah. I would definitely do it. I would like I would probably regret it later, but I would
Yeah,
still
I would
do
be
it.
like, you can get taken out, apparently.
Yeah. The devil says education should be enjoyable. I learned Italian because it turns women on. I learned Japanese because anyway.
Fucking love it.
Anti-flag says LOL. Devil says bye all. Bye. Okay.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone who's come out. First of all,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this on Spotify, Left in the South to YouTube, check it out. We went live at 5 p.m. It might range to when we go live. I don't know, Caleb. You said you wanted to talk about continue live streaming, like play games after this. I don't know if you still want to do that.
Well, we're gonna take a break, but
Yeah, obviously get some
We'll
fucking
see.
water, take a shit, piss, of course.
Yeah.
Right. But of course, we didn't do in the beginning because I kind of forgot. But I can do it now. I want to thank our Patreons. We have 4 Patreons, a total of 4. Big, right? I want to thank James, Grunt, Tim, and Payton. Thank you so much for your constant and monthly support to our Patreon. You don't know how much that God, like that I wake up every day with a little more energy, knowing
Yeah.
that my friends are fucking loving the shit I'm producing and are supporting it constantly. Like, I fucking love you guys.
Hi.
And Devil, like
Arigatou gozaimashita.
you're a newcomer to the channel, but like when I see you messaging on our videos, bro, know that you're bringing great joy to my heart. All right.
Truly.
That's what I want to say. But you know, that was. I don't know if you want to end it here. If you have something else, one last closing.
No, I'm down. Go ahead.
Okay. You know,
Play us out, Sam.
Yeah, it was episode 32 of Love in the Salt podcast. Goodbye.
Bye.
And then where's our music at?
All right.